Hello, everyone. I am Phil Svitek, and I have the pleasure of interviewing amazing people every now and then. And today is exactly that. I have an actor, a filmmaker, a podcaster, a fellow podcaster as well, someone I'm excited to talk to because we overlap in so many of those areas. And I love that. I love when people have their hand in a lot of things and can speak to those things and do it very successfully. And this is one such person. And he also happens to have a very fun name. I love the name, Bud Rebel. You can check out his podcast, The Bud Rebel Show. And he's done feature films, short films, and I'm excited to also discuss the fiction podcast coming out soon based off of a script that he's done. So without further ado, welcome, Bud, to the show.
I'm really excited to be with you, Phil. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to getting this conversation going.
You know, I guess like as a jumping off point, how do you view yourself? Like there's so many monikers and labels, but like do you all just put it under the umbrella of like storyteller, or like how do you view yourself overall?
I like the name Bud Rebel because I'm trying to be like a good person, but a little bit of a rebel. So whatever I do, I want to make things that's a little, not make a new invention to say, but add a new like layer to that's not normally there.
Mhm.
So whether it's the films that I did, they have a very unique flow to them than you've probably seen a lot of movies, or whether it's the podcast, whatever I do, I want to have a little bit different. So people will have a lot of fun with it, and I want it to be a little bit better, you might say. That's the way I'd like to be known as the Bud Rebel thing, as you might say.
Gotcha. Well, borrowing from one of my favorite podcasts, the Team Deacons podcast, which is an amazing podcast for filmmakers, I like to always borrow their question of like, how did you get to where you are today? Like, give us the begin, like, the starting point to,
Wow.
How you broke into the business, as it were.
Very interesting. I mean, I guess it all depends how you look at it. I mean, I went the very conventional way of being quote in a family business because I was like trying to be logical, but I've always wanted to do my own thing. I mean, even when I did that, I was my own sales rep for the business for a long time period of time. But even earlier, like from like second grade, I was Mr. Arnold Horshack in a show called Welcome Back, Kotter. That's still a past your time. When I was in second grade, and then I was in Howard Cosell. So I always loved acting per se, and it was in Godspell, and it was like a whole bunch of shows growing up. I just didn't. I always loved doing it. Even when I was in camp, I was the first one that did a little horror movie we did before Friday the 13th. We had our own version of Friday the 13th at camp, which I wrote the story and did, and I had a little acting part in it. So it was a lot of fun. And then I took a little break from it because I'm practical of life, you might say. But I would even when every day, even growing up, I'd write two business ideas. So I always wanted to do something. Always my creative side always wanted. So at age, I think it was 40 years old, I took a class by a guy named Dove Simmons, who taught at NYU and UCLA. And he said, you can make a film. And in 2 days, I learned all the basic skills to make a film. And I had written like so many scripts before because writing scripts is like almost therapy, you might say, because your characters do what you want instead of reality. And if you want to knock somebody off, it's okay. Don't have to worry about it. No criminal charges. So it's a really great outlet to write. And I always loved writing scripts as a whole. And then to see it 40 years, I decided, okay, I'm going to just take this class and see where it goes. And the guy said to me, you're not going to make money. Just know that, but you can get it done. And I was going to make a horror script like everybody else, but I decided to go family film because nobody else was doing that I knew of. So that's when All Screwed Up came out. And that's when everything started dwelling when I started doing more stuff. And I have a website where I put up all my ideas at budrebelproductions.com. And then I was writing things. I was always flowing with my ideas. And so from there, I would take some of the ideas and make them short videos, which is on the Bud Rebel Production YouTube channel. And then I would go from there and I said, let's make a temporary, like, let's say story, like a show. And I did the Bud Rebel show that's where I met Mina and Corey and all these people. And from there, I put them in to make my next film. Actually, my father passed away. I had some assets, and people want to do what they want, and I decided, what, I want to do my other endeavor, which led me to the Undead, which is the film I had over here, which was a new type of horror movie because there's a spiritual element to it. That's a really different, and it's not scary, but it has a whole different. I don't even know how to put it because it's a spiritual horror movie, which I think is very unique. Which we had some major characters in. So I just love doing my creative spirit. It's part of who I am. Wherever I am, I can't just let it just dwindle. So And then just recently I did a song, my son, which just came out on YouTube, which is a lot of fun, called Waiting. We did an animation. So I've been just exploring all these things. I've been having to do it, and it's so much fun because it just allows me to express myself in many different ways.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And it's very true to sort of my spirit overall. And I'm curious from your perspective, when you mention your quote unquote horror movie, right, being different because you're using air quotes for horror because it's not quite horror, it's more spiritual. And certainly something that I run into both from a marketing standpoint, but also even just the inception of like pitching it to people. Everyone tries to deduce it down to, okay, well, what is it? Is it horror? Is it this? Is it that? And I don't know. I'm curious from your perspective how you overcome that hurdle to just have something be as unique as you're talking about.
Well, honestly, that's the problem in the industry because, there are people that make films just for, let's say, Lifetime.
Yeah.
So let's say Lifetime wants a Christmas movie or a Hanukkah movie, whatever it is. They want a movie. These people will just make those movies just for those genres on a regular basis, which is great business. It's a great business model because that way they know they're making a product that they exactly know is going to sell, and they can make a certain cost, and they make a deal, and boom, it's smart, a lot smarter than what I'm doing. I'm just doing something because I'm passionate about the story. To me, it's I had to do this. To me, it's like if I didn't do it, it would have been part of my life missing. So to sell it, the idea is that when I sell it, to sell it as that it takes you to a whole new world that you wouldn't see in another horror movie. It's very unique, and you're either going to like it or not. But at the end of the day, you're going to say, "Wow, this is something I did. I'm not going to see this anywhere else." The Undead is something you're not going to see. So that's where it's going on. But I'm not thinking like dollars and cents, like how much money I'm going to make on this. I got a good distributor, Porter, that's distributing, but it's very hard. If you're in the film industry and you're an artist and you want to make something that you really want to make, really don't count on making money. Honestly, if it works out, fantastic. If it doesn't, it's because you want to create it. It's art. There's art, and then there's business. So business is making if let's say James Bond becomes a new movie, what's going to happen? There'll be James Bond, same exact story, but just a cheaper version. So they keep copying each other, and that's business. Art is to just take that and go to a whole different realm, and you're just doing because you love it. And if it works, great, but it's dangerous if it comes to financially what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's sort of the hurdle, right? I mean, other disciplines, for example, writing, right, seems far more cheaper, like being a novelist or a nonfiction writer, right? Versus filmmaking, because filmmaking is a lot more costly. But not only that, you have to rely on other people ultimately, right? Unless it's, I guess, like a one-man produced movie and it stars direct shot by just a singular person. So even just it would be an interesting experiment for sure. But even from that standpoint, yeah, I'm curious because you had mentioned some people that you collaborate with. So I'm curious of what attracted them to your projects and the dynamic you guys have.
Well, I've worked with Mina Guy for a while in terms of when I got her involved in the project. With All Screwed Up, it was very funny because in All Screwed Up, I put an ad up and I asked someone to be a director, and I had appointments all day long. But really, only one person showed up. And with the interesting thing about the person, they were a cinematographer. And I said a cinematographer would love to be the one in charge, saw the vision. And the cinematographer has their own team. You're hiring like basically the whole team. So Neil Steffens, hired the whole team. I don't know anything about who's an expert and who's not. So the biggest thing is to hire your director, you might say, who has their team they like to work with. And if you like what they're producing, or the cinematographer, whatever their vision, they know who they want to work with, who they like to work with, and you just set the budget up like that. So that's how I worked with her. I worked with her on this called Bud Rebel show type concept, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And so I decided I'll take a gamble, do this whole thing because I'm comfortable working with the person. That when you're making a film, it's 7 days a week. 20. You have to like the person. You have to like getting along with them and feel that they have the same emotional balance and see the same things you do. And that's what happened that's why we did that whole gamut with her. That whole personalities didn't clash. And we're still working. I have a studio now, and I'm doing a lot of work other than that too. But that takes you to what I'm talking about before, which is seduction, which I'm taking a smaller gamble, but I'm taking major actors. What we're doing is my script. And instead of, and I hope they don't steal this idea if it comes out, they're taking my script and we're making little sections and we're taking major names and we're putting it in. And the cost is so much lower because there's no video. There's no set designs. There's no makeup. There's no, I mean, it's all controlled. So there's no outdoor scenes. Everything's done in a controlled setting and there's no, just all sound. So it's a whole new gamut. And what I'm hoping could happen is if it does well as a podcast, someone like you get some people and they want to make it a film and they have the money to do it. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that again, but they'll buy the rights or somebody else will do the whole thing. Or they'll like this idea and have a hire us again. But the cost is so much less. And my art project's coming out. And these fictional podcasts are amazing. I don't know if you've been listening to any of them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like. There's a few like murder mystery type ones, and my joke is like they're so immersive that I can't listen to them while driving because I'll crash the car. You know, so
yeah,
I have to like set aside time.
I got an accident. That's so funny. I was listening to an episode. I shouldn't tell the story, but I drive in hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, everything. Every weather you can think of, snow, people cutting off. I'm driving like maybe 3 miles an hour on like the Brooklyn Expressway, total traffic. And I just got to go over like a little bit of the lane. And I go over and the blind spot hits the back of my car, my Tesla, hits the back of my car and oh my gosh. But I'm listening to Passenger List. So, I mean, I should get excused because that's an amazing podcast. I just, amazing what they do. Yeah, it's so enthralling. It's so powerful. To me, it's actually, I think, more powerful, I hate to say this, than watching a film because you really have to concentrate. It's funny. It's taking me back to my father's times when they used to listen to all these radio shows and you had to use your imagination. And it's wonderful. I really get thoughts. So we're putting together something that's going to be really powerful. And basically, it's a concept of sex is a drug in many ways and how someone can be pulled in and what happens to their life. So we're trying to do a little bit. I want the audience to almost be pulled into this story, as you might say.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, I'm curious how you jump between the different mediums because it's funny, like for me, when I write, so I write fiction and I write scripts, and then the knock I get with my scripts is you're writing it too much like a novel. When I write my novels, they're like, this reads more like a script than a novel. And, and I ask because obviously, there are similarities between an audio drama and a film. But with audio drama, it tends to be more dialogue heavy and you have to rely on the sound effects to make all that, right? Like if someone's walking across the room and opening a door, as you said, someone has to visualize that because there's no actual image for that. So yeah, I'm just curious about the process of all of that and how you approach it.
Well, I like writing scripts a lot because I don't know, it's just something I get used to. Like I've never really written a whole book. I'll give you a lot of credit. Because one of the hardest parts is writing the action scenes. I find like he punches. I don't know, just you have to really visualize it, whatever. And I love writing scripts because I just like the parts you can leave out almost.
Yeah,
like and it's just so direct. Interior dark, light, whatever the day, where it is, exactly what it is, and you just describing the characters. It's to me it's much easier. With this podcast, it's interesting. Like you said before, a lot more is audio. So where you say interior night, whatever, no, it doesn't make a difference. You have to feel that is night. So if it's night, what do you have, an owl? Yeah, you hear the sound of an owl, or you hear the whole difference is you're writing for sound versus writing for thing. And so everything is what you hear to make you feel like it's going on, like you can feel like you're there. And it's a different type of part. I guess it's a different experience, but it's fun to write that as well.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I'm always curious. Yeah, I'm a fan of audio dramas, but I have not yet dabbled my foot in. So,
I would take one of your scripts and just modify it, where you would see it, sound it.
Yeah.
So, like as I said to you, whatever it is, if it's beachfront sound, then have sound of waves. Just have the sound that you'd affect that you want to be there, and you can modify too. And if you have a really good studio, they'll understand and they'll maybe be able to make the modifications you need as well, without formal script, so that works out. Because the great thing about it too is it's all post-production too. So you can hear it and make those changes as well, which is interesting. I'm doing a totally different market. but they were talking about now the way the films are made now, and the lighting and the cameras are so much cleaner and so much nicer. But there was something beautiful about the old movies where it wasn't so clean and it wasn't so crisp, and the lighting had to be perfect. And now they put everything on the blue screens, and so it doesn't feel like a film like it used to. Film's a little too clean. Like Wicked was an example, which I thought was a great movie, but it was just too crisp and too clean. It didn't feel like the old movies because everything's blue screened. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I get what you're talking about. That literal film grain, right, back in the day, and I mean, I'm a fan of, like, let's say the Marx Brothers movies and things of that nature, and I love the fact that, I mean, it's, it's terrible editing at points. Like sometimes it jumps cuts, and you're like, wait, well, how did that person get to there or whatever? But you just get so enthralled in the story that it still works, and yeah, I think there's a part in the greater machine of things that we tend to lose out on that passion, that perhaps was more so there. Or, I mean, when you look, I don't know, like part of it is also seeing older movies. They have writing credits like you see on a TV show where it's multiple people. Now it's just usually one person for a movie. And it's like, okay, well, maybe if they did have that collaboration and treat it like the writer's room you do on a TV show, the quality could have been better. I don't know. But
I was just going to see even the lighting is different because when you're lighting for a green screen, it doesn't have to be as technical as lighting for where you don't have that whole background, the whole CGI thing that you're going to post production everything out. So it makes it a little different. And the faces, the shades, they don't have as much, I don't think, in the newer films, unless it's independent filmmakers like us, which we don't have as much capacity to do it. So that's a difference there as well.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting too. I was like, I think part of it is we've gotten away from the notion of just committing to ideas, and it's like, okay, we'll worry about it in post, and with green screen then we can like make anything and all that. But funny enough, I was watching a play the other day, and the amount of like practical effects, it was like watching true magic on stage, and it's just lighting effects and pyros. But I'm like, you know what, next time I do a live action movie that has like I want to work with theater people because they have to pull it off 100% in the moment, and I just love that. And I don't want that. I call it like the old art. I don't want it to be lost,
Right.
I feel, because I think we need that.
Yeah, it's funny because they always say the acting for the theater and then the acting for movies is totally different. It's because they have to do being live, that whole stage in front of the people. You have to be much more bigger.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work it well. I don't know how the theater actor then becomes an actor. Sometimes they have to low key themselves, which is an interesting thing as well. So,
yeah, I mean, and again, it goes back to that sort of thing that we're talking about, jumping between different mediums. Yes, it requires something a little bit different, but I think part of what you're talking about, as long as you have a passion for it and respect it, then you can approach it from that right way and get to the end result that is good.
mm-hmm. Hey, what movies do you like now? You've been watching a lot of movies or series yourself? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I'm a big movie fan. So recently I saw The Assessment with Alicia Vikander and Elizabeth Olsen, and I thought that was really well done. My favorite movie of last year was actually Conclave. So yeah, I try to really see all like the indie movies and things like that for sure.
And do you actually go to the theater to watch it?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you sitting by yourself or the other people in the theater?
Listen, my friends always make fun of me. Like, do you go with people to the theater? I'm like, well, listen, everyone's invited to come with me, but if I had to depend on people to go to the movies, I'd never go to the movies.
No, it's just sad because very few people actually go to a movie theater, and the experience is totally different than watching in your house because it's just like you actually your house, you can get up, get like a coffee, come back, the lights aren't there. And if your wife interrupts you, your dog interrupts you, it's a little different than you and just that theater, now and also some of the IMAX, the sound is just a whole different world. I just feel like we're missing it. I think I don't know if I'll get back to the same when I was growing up. When a movie came out, you had to see it within like a month, or you had to wait a year to see it. So people would wait online. So, I remember the old Star Wars and the old Rocky would wait online. Like they had to see it then. It was such an exciting thing. And then when you go to school or whatever the next day, oh, did you see the movie? But now it's just a world where everybody's in their little niches. So you might like horror movies, you might comedy, whatever, and nobody knows what the other people are watching. And there's like, I don't know what young people do. Like, do they? I mean, I guess if you're into, everybody has their own world,
Yeah.
and there's no like big movie we have to say. I think this. I guess Wicked would be the last quote big movie that I could think of that everybody quote went to say. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And to your point, when I go to the movie, like to me, it's almost like a very spiritual experience, right? Like I put away my phone, like no one can get to me. I'm there, I'm focused on the screen and the emotion of it for sure. And not like I try to go during more peak times to get that crowd experience because I want that. I want to see what people are reacting to. And if it's a comedy, I want to be laughing with other people. If it's a sad movie, you can start to hear the sniffles at the right moments. Like that to me is part of the magic that you just don't get at home. And
when is it crowded now? When is it crowded to see a movie? What good movies have you seen that was actually crowded?
You have to go at like generally like a Thursday night when movies open up, right? Because that's like the diehards going.
You're in
I'm in Los Angeles, yeah. So.
Okay, so they're still crowded the movie. That's why. Okay.
Yeah. So.
That's where they go still. But I'm just like, it's interesting because I don't know if I don't know. I don't know what the rest of the country is doing, but yeah, it's a whole experience going. And I actually just saw the movie, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name. The movie that won best movie of the year.
Anora, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I just saw Anora, and wow, that was a movie you cannot see with your old 80-year-old parents.
No, definitely not.
And no kids either, no little ones. So that was wow, that was an experience. I mean, that was I wouldn't put it the best movie of the year, but I thought it had moments. It was artistic, and the ending was great ending for that film. I don't know. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, the ending was powerful. I mean, I don't know where they got it to the best movie of the year. I think a lot of times when they say best movie of the year, they want it to be very different. They don't want it to be like something that's happened before. But I just wonder if how much the public follows this anymore, like the Oscars, anybody cares anymore, like the real general public.
I mean, I look at it. So I'm a overall, I guess I would call myself like a cinephile, and there's certain movies that come out that I'm like, where did this come from? Right? Like if I'm this dialed in and something blindsides me, how is the public even going to stand a chance of ever knowing about that movie? And so I think honestly, going back to the idea of unique movies that, you're making and that I want to make and things of that nature, I think it really just comes down to the marketing. And I think we've gotten, to your point, perhaps, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, we just like to have things be so cookie cutter that it's just easy to market. It's digestible for audiences of like, hey, you've seen this, now just watch this. As opposed to, you can have a creative side to the marketing aspect and you can get people excited about something that they've never seen before.
Yeah, and but it's hard as an independent filmmaker. I mean, honestly, with the Undead, it's like this movie. It's real. I mean, if I made a slasher movie, it'd probably be a lot easier to get it out there. Just another slasher movie, whatever. I could have done that easy. Or vampire. I don't know if vampires are popular anymore. But but if I made with the same type of genre, yeah, it probably would be much. But who am I then? I'm just another. I'm going to invest my money, my time, my life into something. It's got to be something that I'm passionate about, that I really want. That's out there, because otherwise, I don't mind helping somebody out with a project, but if it's not meaningful, then what's the point? When it's art, because the odds of making money are very slight. It's like making music. The odds like really, really difficult. So if you don't love the concept, you think it's just the same. I don't know. It's like being an actor. It's like if you're an actor, like I said before, if I'm an actor and I'm just playing the same role over and over again, it's a paycheck, which is fine. You need that. I don't need this, so I can be creative. It's not like I need this, so I can be a little bit more, take more gambles and do things that if it doesn't work out, I'm not gonna, you won't see me begging in the street. But so that's why I've done these projects a little bit out of the mainstream. And hopefully I'll keep. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But the goal is how do I get. The bigger thing also is that not only is it about money, it's you want people to see it. So if there's a way that you get your films to be shown, but you can't unless you're making money. So it's a catch-22. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. And I remember so with my first movie, when it came out, it came out right at the top of the pandemic, and I was like, oh great. So it won various festivals, and I'm sure people saw it, but it was such a disconnected part of it, right? That's why. So when I did my second one, I was excited to do the festivals, and there probably could have been bigger festivals we could have played, but I said I want that audience interaction. Like I want to see them, and so I chose specifically like places I could go to, whether Vegas, certainly a lot in LA, maybe San Diego, San Francisco, even like Sacramento, Seattle. Like those were the types of places we played because I wanted to make sure that I could see the audience reaction and make it have that deeper emotional bond to it rather than just getting an email of like, hey, people voted on your movie, it was great.
That's a nice, yeah, that's a nice feel for that. I got that whole thing. And how did you do marketing your films? Did you distribute yourself, or do you work with a company? How did that work out with you?
So for both festival runs, we essentially did by ourselves, and then because of the festival runs, then we were able to get a distributor for both. But much to your point, with the second one, it's a movie that takes place in the country of Colombia. However, it is not about drugs and warlords. It's about yes, crazy. It's about
no drug,
no drugs. Although there's ayahuasca. So it's about like two sets of American tourists, and they speak English because they're American tourists. And so when it's kind of interesting when the distributor got it, they were trying to sell it, and the number one note was, well, had you made it a drug cartel movie in Colombia with Spanish speakers, it could have sold. And I'm like, that is antithetical to what I was trying to make the entire time.
Right. It's like they want you to stay with the stereotypes and stuff like. Well, the good news about that to some degree is they made this gangster movie this week, and it was a big flop, which is good because it's just like, come on, it's enough gangster movies. We've done this already, and it wasn't anything really that different. So I don't know what the big studios are going to make because I think that they've done enough with these quote superhero movies. I don't know how many more they can do that are going to be that big. I mean, they keep doing the same, and they're doing the same things. I'm just wondering what their game plan is. It's an interesting, and then it's the political correctness got in the whole movie industry, which made it made half the audience not want to see your movies. So I think that's a big market too. But so I'm just curious what these big studios, what their plans are and how they plan to reach it. Because and at one point they were making movies that could be sold in China because that's a big market. But now China is making their own films. So. And they don't like our quote values there in China, so they want to look good. So it's like that market gone. So it's going to be interesting to see how the streaming services get you all over the place, but does that get people to watch your film? It's interesting. So I mean, I don't know your personal thing, but in terms of making films, to me, it has not been a very financially good investment. But it's something that I'm passionate about doing. That I love. Again, art is what I like to do. I mean, one of the things I'm doing right now to make money at the same time and having fun with is I'm a love of dogs, so we made our own dog biscuits. The Rebel biscuits were made, and it's all organic. But again, being a rebel, I said I don't want to say I have things organic, naturals, whatever. I want to do something a little different, so I added a little mint to it because my dogs always have bad breath, so it tastes good. And we do that, and hopefully that will generate some revenue, which then I can put more into the arts and do more things like we're doing an improv show here. We have a place in Nyack. We're going to have a 600 people theater. We're going to do music, and we'll bring music down to Nyack, which is really close to New York City, which we'll try to revive Nyack in that art scene. So, I'm trying to do all those little bounces, hoping that one becomes more financially successful, to generate money so I can do the others that are more risky, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole. That's why I'm balancing a lot of different balls, you might say, at the same time.
I love your embracing of that because a lot of people probably wouldn't. I don't know if you experienced that, whatnot, and so I'm curious about the mentality of it. And going back to something that we opened up with, you mentioned you essentially got into this at the age of 40, correct? Like that's when you really started going down this hole. So I'm just curious. Well, I'm curious because I'm curious because I mean a lot of time like I mean I've met like 20-year-olds that think they're so behind and stuff like that they can't change whatever, and like you got into it, you embraced it, and I don't know, I think part of a big obstacle for people is just the mental component, and I don't know how to necessarily resolve that for them, but I know it's there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that say they're going to do things in life that don't do it. You might say they get to the point. I mean, I just wrote so many scripts. I don't know, like 10 scripts I did. It was like, what am I doing? And they're just keeping my closet, just keeping dust. So it's like I had to do it. I'm the person that just I say it, I do it. Now, whether it makes money, doesn't, I don't know. I just do it because, in the end, it's who you are. It's going to be out there, God willing, even if you're not here. You know what I'm saying? It's your photo for the world. So then that goes back to the slasher movie. You make a slasher movie, it's great, it's fun, whatever. People have a good time with it. But if you make a movie again, Undead, I think has a really good values and really hard, and it's a horror movie, so you're enjoying it. Okay, one is people have to enjoy it, so they really should enjoy it. But it's then goes and gives you a little value at the end, without being preachy and annoying. I'm not trying to be that. So that's the thing, and that's the same thing with even this the podcast we're doing, the fictional podcast. So it's your legacy, it's what you bring to the world, so that they know that you had this, and this is what it's about. Even the thing with the dog biscuits, I'm not making a dog biscuit to make it artificial flavors, just make money and I'm making a good, healthy dog for the dog. So I try to have that people say, Bud Rebel, whatever he did, he made good quality, he tried his best, and it was always a little unique. And hopefully, you'll be the next Bud Rebel. I'm not here, and the whole world be whatever, and we'll all like be our own individual person and not be afraid to be authentic, you might say, to be ourselves, and wherever it goes, but also be a good person. So, you might differ with me politically, whatever, but you never be a jerk, just be a good person and just have discussions, whatever it is. And that's the key about life, is that you just got to be yourself and be a good person. That's what I'm hoping I can transfer that further down the line with other products and other ideas and stuff like that.
Very cool. Well, we've kind of touched upon it, but I want to dive deeper into your podcast, right? So, when did you start it, and what's been the most fun with it, guest wise or just topic wise?
Wow, I love it. I mean, again, this is like the job that I love more than I've been doing a lot of jobs. It's my favorite job because I love talking to people, and I love getting their insight, and loved having these discussions about. But I bring up some of my business ideas. I've been again. I went to I think I was like 7 years old. Everyone was going out at Saturday night. I felt like I was blown in the house. So I just write a business idea every day, whatever. So I always just toss them around. Hopefully, someone's going to make millions of dollars and give me $10 back. But whatever, I give them out. And then I do investment ideas. But some of the best are like I interviewed a person that was homeless for like 10 years, and how he not only became not homeless, but started an organization that actually really helps people out.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. I interviewed a Holocaust survivor. I'm going to be hopefully interviewing somebody who was in just in very bad situations and people recovering. I always want to tell it because we all have our own little trash and garbage shit we have to deal with. I don't know if it's French. That we have to deal with, and hearing people's recovery from it, I think inspires other people. When you hear someone, oh, this is easy. No, people had to go through all this stuff. So I always love that angle. I remember interviewing somebody, and they told me a story that their mother was attacked by an animal. It just all these things come out, and this is fun because you're having these great conversations, and it's fun. And hopefully I'll get paid for it one day. But right now, it's like going to therapy, and about therapy is like $400. So it's not a bad investment. I'm talking to somebody, so it's okay. That's the way I look at it. And then I also love to hear their. Again, I love to hear their stories. How about you when you do the podcast? Which is your
Yeah, I mean, I love the interaction. For me, it's just about helping people and trying to connect the dots, and hopefully see them grow and be able to utilize whatever information they can. And and to your point about these sort of inspiring stories, like whenever I deal with people in real life, sometimes there's like the pushback of like, oh, what do you know? Your life is easy. Well, I'm like, well, yes, but at the same time, the stuff that I point to, let's say like Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, right? That's a guy who survived the Holocaust and found not only meaning, but also like joy in a concentration camp. So if he can do it, then it's possible. I'm not saying I'm there, but it is possible. And
no.
Yeah.
Everybody, and that's what I sometimes hate, because everyone has their own struggles. And mental health, it's the weirdest thing. You have someone like Marilyn Monroe, beautiful, rich, famous, with suicide. Robin Williams, unbelievable success story. So to ignore that people have their own struggles, and some of it's mental health, that people go through, they can have the best life in the world, or they can have the worst life. Like you just said, people go through the Holocaust. I mean, a lot of people got through the Holocaust, and they may come back and they make a multi-billion-dollar business, and they have their life. And it's like, I mean, I'd be like screwed up in my head. How are you
Yeah.
doing this? How are you witnessing it? So everybody has their battle to bear, and some of us deal with it differently. And I actually heard what's his name? I don't know, someone on the radio who went through 2 drug rehab programs in his life, and he was really out of it. And now he's like one of the top radio hosts in the country. And he went through like a lot of garbage because drugs is a horrible thing to go through with people. It destroys so many lives. So I mean, just to see people's struggles, we all have them. Doesn't matter, rich, poor, black, white. We all have it. We all have advantages that we all have. If you're in the inner city, you probably have advantages that people give you scholarships versus everybody. If you're from a rich family, everyone expects you to be have it easy. But it's so hard to be independent and show that you made it in your own way because, oh, daddies or mommies, whatever. And that's a struggle. That's a real struggle. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be, I don't know, Donald Trump's son or be whatever because everyone expects you to be like there. That's a tough thing to be. So, I mean, we'll have it. And just to say, oh, you had it easy. No, nobody really has it. Everybody has it, their own little thing. I mean, I remember growing up, I think about it when high school. I know you, I hated high school, But because it's like you have all your little cliques, and I was in no cliques, being a quote rebel, even at that time. I couldn't find my little clique. But the people in the cliques had to keep up with their cliques. If the new fashion came out, you were like the fashion club, you had to keep up with the fashion club, otherwise you're gonna be out. Or if you had to be the top football player. One year you hurt your ankle, whatever it is, you all have your struggles. And just to say your struggles are broader than that, it's not fair. And not just
So I was very lucky in my high school. We had a video program. And so I was essentially started running. I filmed everything, right? So I was allowed to take the camera and whatever events. I was just basically documenting life. And kind of that's what got me into all the clicks because this was pre like cell phones in the sense of, with the cameras and stuff like that. So everyone wanted to be on camera and I was like the guy to tape it. And that was sort of my entry point. I wasn't like cool necessarily, but it was just, people knew me. And it's kind of interesting now in hindsight, when people reach out of like, I remember you filmed this or, you were great to work with or whatever. So I was like, it's just interesting with the benefit of hindsight, how those experiences can change your viewpoint, let's say.
I mean, I guess we all have some insecurity when we're young in high school. My thing was politics. I got very much into the Reagan years. I was a Reaganite. So I got really into it. I mean, I met some really shady, bad people. Politics says, I don't care what side you are. There are some really bad people that just want to be, being in power, and they will do anything to step on anybody. I wanted it because I believed in the issues, whatever. I just, I was idealistic. But it gave me confidence because, I would take on 3 people to debate on things, and it gave me the ability to speak better than I would normally be able to speak. And then that gave me the ability to do other things and believe in myself more. Like anything else. So that was my key. I thought about politics for a long time getting involved, but too many bad people. and you have to really have a tough stomach because you have to take like a lot of garbage, and people, no matter what side you are, people are going to want to step on you because they're looking to be the next one. They're looking to the next money. So they're just like so you have to really be like a type of a little bit ruthless, I think, to get up the ladder.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I like to be in issues and change things and stuff like that. So that's what I'm concerned about. Like again, as mentioned, homelessness. It really irks me as someone who's really polite that there's so many people living on the streets, and it's all God's children, you might say, and how we are just letting people just die from drugs and letting people die of mental illness. And this country that's so wealthy that we even have one person like that. There's something wrong. There's something we can do better in, and that bothers me. And those are one of the issues I'm really passionate about, how to change that, and without, because there's a lot of government tape to help people, but it doesn't really always reach the people. It goes all the way down, it helps the bureaucrats a lot more than it helps the people. So,
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
For sure. Um, Well, shifting gears just a little bit, I'd love to. We've talked about the fictional podcast, but can you tell us like when it's coming out and just a little bit about it? Like, what is
sure.
it?
Thank you. Yeah, well, it's called Seduction. I wrote it, I don't know, 7 years ago, whatever. Everything's based in some way to your life. So hopefully, things in your life to some experience, you might say. And I was thinking about making it a film, but then I divorced. So I said to myself, you know what? Why not make it as good quality as you can, audio? And the story, it should be we should be shooting at the end of April. We're just signing the really top name talents that we're trying to get on it, which is really exciting because I don't think it's been done before. We're getting names that you would recognize, but I'll keep it a secret because it's not
Sure.
signed yet. But you'll know them. And it really deals with just so the issue. It deals with everybody, like almost. There's a person that gets a humdrum job, humdrum life, same thing day after day. You know, maybe his wife has issues of like not wanting to leave the house, and he's really just living a boring life. And then he gets what we call, like we would call it, the wife of the office, you might say. This really attractive, beautiful woman that comes in and I guess flirts with him, and they're just playing a game and how far it will go, and how far you can pull from here to the other one. And she's young, he's older, and this is good, you know, and so he's pulled into this world, and what happens and how his life changes. Let's leave it that way. And it's, you know, it's very exciting and it's very interesting. And I think it's a lot of people's dreams at a certain age, but how it could really make your life, and again, how it's related to drugs. Because the idea of drugs is I'll try it. You know, it's okay. I'll try it. I'm okay. I'm a strong person. It won't bother me. You know, and you try it. Well, it's okay. And then you do it again, and you get more and more. And then at some point, it's not even the drug that you like. It's just that you can't get off it. So I want that feel about what we do in life is that whatever thing it is, it pushes you and pulls you into that world, and you just can't get out of it at some point. And you think that you could just play along with it and not it could be gambling, whatever. It just pulls you in and sucks you out and sucks you out and sucks you out. And that's basically the some way I want it to relate to people. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the basic concept on it. But I'd hopefully make it a fun story, and I hope it's not too preachy to people. I don't think it'll be preachy. I want the viewer to be pulled in as they're watching it, how they feel, and that's going to be a challenge. So, but we have a great studio, we have a great team. Michaela, I don't know, she's unbelievable. She works with me in a lot of projects that I'm working on. Matter of fact, if Shabuzi plays in the Super Bowl, Shabuzi, that's me. I'm doing a campaign to have Shabuzi playing the Super Bowl, by the way. I'm sick of this. I need some country. This guy's amazing, by the way. So I'm pushing him. I have a campaign on that. I think there's a petition. I don't know if she can tell you the name. So we're going to push that Shabuzi gets there. She helps me do that. She helps me with press releases. We're doing a lot of things together, and I'm excited to work with her because I'm going to be going to California. Maybe I'll see you down there to put this together. Because it's much easier again to do it there than to do it here and try to bring people back and forth.
Yeah, makes sense. And is this intended as like a one big episode, kind of like a movie, or is it more episodic?
I think it'll be more episodic, but I think one of the keys is something I'm exploring the distribution angles, you know. I mean, there's it's a little different with pilot. I've been exploring these films like, as I said, Passenger List, which is amazing. There's so many different ones, amazing ones. But I want to see what they did. I mean, there's the BBC market. But the funny thing about it is when movies can translate all over the world, I don't think you can do this. It's got to be English speaking, Spanish speaking, German speaking. I don't think you can change the podcast sounds when you can dub it around the world. I think it's got to be, I don't know how they would do that in different markets.
Yeah,
So
that would be interesting. Yeah, because with a movie, obviously you can do subtitles, and yes, you can do dubbing. Dubbing's never. I don't know. I'm a subtitle fan overall because it stays truer to the sensibility of what the movie was intended to be.
It's amazing though. I think that's so amazing that you're reading it and you're still getting sucked into the movie. I'm so amazed that happens somehow. That with the subtitles, it works. You know?
It does. I mean, because it retains that original performance, and I'm not trying to knock any dub performers. It's just different.
No,
you know, I mean, because to me, because I think about it in that sense, it's not like you as the director are there to direct the dub, right? And so that's a big disconnect for me.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's interesting. So I don't know how this translates, whether they can take this and just buy it and just do the whole thing in German or Japan or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they can. Maybe that's how that works too. It's sort of an experiment, but it's a lot less than a film. And yeah, I think episodic would be much better. Personally, people want to watch it. You put commercials in, you know, that's where you got some revenue. So, but one time, I don't think it'll be harder to do. So, I'm hoping to do it that way. I think, but whatever they want us to do, you know, in the end, I'd like to least break even, or again, and maybe take somebody like another filmmaker that doesn't have a lot of money to make a film, and we do it again for them. Get real quick. We do this whole thing again, and we start changing the landscape, especially for the young independent filmmaker that is struggling to get the money to get these projects going. That's waiting tables and extra tables and doing this and just to get the money to get the film because it's so hard to do it. And and I don't, and I just, I'm not a big fan of the festival scene because I think a lot of it's politics, honestly. Because I've seen some of this movies and festivals. I'm like, I've seen rainfall dropping. I'm like, this is not entertainment, just rain dropping. Okay. And to me, the most important thing to my most important thing is the audience must be entertained. It's their time. You're taking their valuable time. And if they're not having fun at that movie, no, don't worry, you got values, whatever. But if you're preaching too much or you're just watching rain, paint dry, again, no, I like to be artistic, don't get me wrong. But if it's not entertaining, it's not right. And if they just can do these with these quote film festivals, where these films are just like, or they know somebody's cousin. I'm not being a little cynical. I'm sure there's great things that come out of it too. But I'm just wondering really if the truth comes out like that.
Yeah, I mean, to dive into that, I guess it is very interesting because I feel like a lot of these film festivals, at least back in the day, right, you get accepted and that happens to be as part of your promotional vehicle, right? Now it feels like, okay, you get into a film festival, you kind of have to attract your own audience and do your own marketing. Unless, of course, it's the big film festival, like let's say a Sundance or Cannes or whatever. But also I look at those and just a few years ago, and I mean, it happens more and more, like the Cannes Film Festival is screening Top Gun Maverick. And it's like, how the hell do you compete with that? Like, there's just no way.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, Tom Cruise will then say, listen, you want me to screen that movie there? I have an independent film that my friend's doing. It needs to be in there. I mean, I'm just thinking logically how this could work, you know what I'm saying? Because they want the big names. They want the big film. It helps them out a lot. And it's an industry. Yeah. So some of this is like, you pay a fee and you get there. Like I said, I did the International Family Film Festival all screwed up in California. I got in, it was great. I think I had an award there, whatever, but you're right. Am I shipping people from New York to go to the California Film Festival? No. I saw a horrible movie, but the guy had a bus, literally brought a bus, and he had the kids go on the bus to go to seeing his film. And it was a comedy, but it laughed. It's terrible. I won't read the name. But it was just like people hate money just to get people to show up at these festivals, and they also make people deals for awards. There's a lot of schemes that go on. So I don't want to be cynical about it, but I am, I guess. So it's a whole world, and that's why I hope that this type of concept comes out because again, I'm just falling in love with this whole concept of these audio podcasts, and I didn't even know they exist. I was just listening to Joe Rogan or whatever in my own podcast, but I didn't even know this, and they're so enthralling. It's such a world jump too. So, and it gives the independent filmmaker a chance to be bigger and bolder at a lower cost. So,
yeah, 100%. And I think it too. Part of it is it teaches a skill that I think a lot of indie filmmakers don't look at it, which is the sound design of it all. I think for the most part, right, a lot of indie filmmakers focus on the visual aspect. And then sound ends up being very minimal. And so I think that's a great, just different way to approach it. And then when you make your visual film, then, you can apply all that and really make it hum.
Right. I wonder if you could put the audio you already did into the visual film to some degree. At least the sound effects already did.
Yeah. I mean, if it matches up overall, you just adjust the timing or whatever, but,
You already did. It's interesting because you already have it. That's funny because you already have that all set. It's another angle that you already got going. And if someone screws up a line, you could just almost take it from there.
Exactly.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's actually a good play on that. And the biggest part is like, I mean, I'm very hyper, if you didn't notice. And making films is a lot of waiting for the lights to set up and waiting for the this is boom, 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 boom. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be like in the sound checks, but it's moving, and so for someone like me it's going to be much more helpful, so that's the difference. It also is a different type of way to do these things.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap things up, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, I mean, I'd love you guys to look at my YouTube channel, the Bud Rebel Productions. You'll see a whole bunch of stuff trust me, we have it broken down in animation. We have some things on my business ideas, all the things. It's a whole world. So you can do that. And a YouTube channel. I have also the biscuits you'll see soon coming, Rebel Biscuits, remember that. And all my films, like I said, The Undead is on Amazon Prime. We're going to bring back All Screwed Up. I'm not sure how we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back to life. And again, the big one, I guess, is Seduction is coming out. So we'll work on that, and just keep following me, because as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to try to bring out more creative items and ideas and make this world a little better in some way I can.
Well, awesome. You're like a kindred spirit, truly. So I appreciated talking with you. And yes, definitely all the stuff that you mentioned will be.
Therapy.
Did I don't know if there was any therapy in there, but if you say so, I'll take your word for it.
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure, and God bless you with all your luck, and hopefully we'll work together on something in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.